Last Friday, I had the opportunity for my annual eye exam. And I walked into the doctor's office and the technician, what have you changed your address, yada, yada. And as she's leaving, she says to me, well, you have a great holiday. So I responded, you too. And she said, well, I'm trying. And she walked out the door. The doctor comes in. She does the exam. She tells me everything is stable. The older I get, the more I like the word stable. Everything is stable. This is good. And as she was leaving, she said the same thing. You have a happy holiday. And I said, you too. And she said, well, we're trying. Hopefully we can get the lights up this weekend. Well, the weekend is come and gone and it's rained the entire 2 days. So I don't know if she's going to have a good Christmas and a happy holidays. But what I did recognize is the theme of how weary both women were. It was only December the 2nd or 3rd, and they're already weary. And the sense that whatever she was doing, whatever they were doing, had no meaning to them really, other than to sort of get through the holiday. And quite frankly, I see more and more people that feel that way. We can just get through this holiday, then everything will be okay, and we get back to normal somehow. And I think to myself, how very sad. How very sad. We don't make Christmas happen. We let Christmas happen. Something inside our heart, something inside our soul. So I thought to myself, where do we go for some guidelines, for some direction on how to have this Christmas be inside of us and let it happen? So, of course, the most appropriate place is to go to look to the Bible. So there are 2 birth stories, one in Matthew, one in Luke. And I want you to understand that these stories were written for multiple reasons. Number one, they were written to tell the story. Just like you have a baby book and mom wrote in you were born in the first way in your first tooth. It's telling of the story of Jesus's physical life. Then we also have to understand that these stories were written maybe decades after Jesus's life. And so they have another purpose. And that purpose is for people who walk in the door of a gathering of people following the way of Jesus, because they weren't called Christians in the early days, they were following the way of Jesus. They wanted to know what was so special about this. Something had attracted them to bring them into this gathering, and they wanted to know more. So the Gospels on one account tell us a story, but on the other hand, they sort of give us a guideline into how to have a richer faith and a greater understanding of our spiritual journey. So I'm going to choose today the Gospel of Luke, and just a very small part. We tend to read the Bible so fast, get through the story, but it's good to just kind of savor the nuggets and mine them for some rich understanding. In the Gospel of Luke, probably the most famous part of the Christmas story is the journey to Bethlehem. Now let's think about this. Mary is great with child, and she has an expectation, doesn't she, that she will be home in Nazareth. When the story first opens up, she's going to be home in Nazareth, surrounded by her women friends. We understand it's her first child. Now, she may have seen other women give birth, but it's really different when it's happening to you. You want to be surrounded by those who understand and know what's going on so they can be supportive and helpful. Joseph, on the other hand, assuming that Mary's well taken care of. She's home, she's she's surrounded by her women friends, and everything is fine. And then what happens? Their expectation is shattered. We see that there is this census by Caesar Augustus, and they have to go. And it's interesting, all the little nuances of the story, but what is the really essential piece here is it absolutely shattered their expectation of what this birth was going to be like. I mean, let's face it, when you have a child, you've got the room all decorated, you've got the cradle up, you've got extra diapers, you've got everything you need. And I'm sure in that time and era, Mary did too. You know, the resources weren't available like they are now. So she would have been gathering these things in Nazareth with the anticipation of the birth. Suddenly, that was shattered. We wonder why Joseph felt obligated to take her at that point. There's many various ways you might read that story, but the long and the short of it is they decided together they were going to have to make this journey. Now, the journey to Bethlehem is probably about just shy of 100 miles. It's on a road that has been traveled by many. You just go to Nazareth to Jerusalem, a little farther down, you go to Bethlehem. But we're not talking about a road that has a Howard Johnson's, you know, like every 25 miles. We're talking about that it's out in the country, and Israel is a desert country. So not only are they going to have to plan, they're going to have to plan carefully. They're going to be gone. They're going to have to go through a desert area, which means they've got to plan for water. They have to plan for food. They're going to be gone at least a week, if not maybe two, because they're going to get to Bethlehem with the idea of turning right back around and coming to Nazareth back home so Mary could have the baby back at home. Well, as we know, that didn't happen. So think about how they are planning now. How we're going to do this. What are we going to take? You know, the idea that Mary and Joseph had a donkey is a little far-fetched. And the reason I say that is because later in the Gospel of Luke, they don't even have enough money to present their child in the temple, and they had to give 2 turtle doves, the lowest of offerings for their child. Animals were expensive, especially beasts of burden. And they wouldn't have been carrying an 8.5-month pregnant woman, how uncomfortable would that be, over 100-mile journey. The animal would carry the food and the water. So they're trimming down on this journey. They're constantly having to trim down and to plan ahead for the road ahead. Now, they're finally on the road, things are happening, and they are so weary. Have you ever walked 100 miles? It's a long walk. Every day you got to get up and get on it and go and go and go. And finally, they come up over the rise because down by Bethlehem, the country is hilly, the countryside, and they see a light in the distance. And Joseph turns to Mary and says, that's it. There's the inn that we were, they told us to go to the inn. So they head to the inn, and can you imagine how hard it was for her to lift her feet and just to go, all right, Joseph, okay, I can go. I can walk just a little bit more. They make it to the inn, and we all know the story. No room. Go away. And I wonder if Mary had a moment of thinking that she was grateful, because inns of those days were just one big, noisy room. The animals usually were undercover because people could not afford to let their animal out of their line of sight. People were in the inn just living their life. And now this woman would have to give birth to her first child in this crazy, noisy, chaotic environment. Maybe in her heart, she thought, oh, thank God, I don't have to go to the inn. And they found a little cave where there were many out on the hillsides of Bethlehem. And there, rather than being in the comfort of her own home with her own supportive women, she was with Joseph, and the two of them brought forth a child. Now, do you get 3 themes here? Number 1, shatterings of expectation. Number 2, planning for the trip and lightening the load. And number 3, going into quiet. That is the antithesis of a 21st century Christmas. And we wonder why we've lost touch with a spiritual awakening at Christmas. We've put more expectations on ourselves. Does it really matter that the lights are up this Saturday? Or does it matter what's happening in our families, in our homes, in our world, in our life? Are we willing to cut back on expectations? You know, most of us on this Zoom call were raised in the 50s and the 40s, 50s, and 60s, long before America was a great commercial, consumable empire. And I don't know about you, but Christmas for us was maybe an outfit, a new outfit for church, of course, and then maybe one toy, and maybe some candy or something like that. Oftentimes we would get a family gift from like our relatives. What happened that simple Christmas, and my family wasn't poor, I don't mean that, but they didn't expend huge amounts of money and energy. Remember, the grocery stores and all stores closed at 6 o'clock on Christmas Eve. That was it. It was done. It was over. So there's this expectation that I can run down at the last minute. There's this expectation that we can do more and have better and more presents, and this makes Christmas. And the very last thing we do is spend time being quiet, quiet with ourselves, quiet with our loved ones, quiet in our homes, quiet in our churches. The point of quiet and silence that allows the birth to come forth within us. There's another level too. I don't know about you, but I wonder, does this Christmas story apply to every situation and everyone? Well, over the past couple of weeks, since really December the 1st, I have had 6 deaths, longtime friends. And tomorrow, Monday, I will have done 4 memorial services in less than 2 weeks. That's a lot. That's a lot of families grieving the loss of a loved one. And you know, if our Bible story can't handle all times in our lives, then it isn't really a living story, is it? So I think to myself, how can I lower expectations? You know, obviously, my expectation of what Christmas would look like last year, come this year, is not true. Now, these people were not personally in my family, but they are good friends, and we would see each other on the holidays, or, you know, meet for a drink or something like that, but they aren't there. Wow. Lowering that expectation, allowing it to be shattered in front of us. I think what is the most important thing, if anything I could share with you, because I know that some of you on this call have had a similar experience this year. You must plan for Christmas Day. Do not think it will just roll over. It will roll over you if you don't think ahead. How am I going to spend Christmas? My expectations have been shattered, but now as I plan, I need to cut loose and thin down, pare out things that no longer can do. For example, a lot of people say, well, you know, my daughter-in-law always has a big thing on Christmas Day, and she called up and said, come over anytime after 2. We're not going to eat till 6, but you come over anytime you want. Do you have to? Maybe this year you come over at 5:30. Maybe this year you call ahead and say, you know what, I'm going to come over and I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to seeing everybody, but I'm not going to stay really long. Once dinner's over, I'm just going to quietly leave. I need to respect my time and my space, because what happens at Christmas is that our emotions, especially our grief, is much more fragile and intense. This is interesting. We think about the holiday or the time of Easter, but Easter happens in the spring when it's lighter, and it's not the big, long, extravagant that Christmas is. And we think we can, and so at Christmas time, there's a heightened intensity of our emotions. And if that is you, Don't make the mistake, and I've made the mistake, I'm speaking from personal experience, that something will just magically happen on Christmas and it'll be all right. If we don't even give a little bit of thought and a little bit of framework to what it is that we want to experience at Christmas. And the third thing, I don't know that we really plan to have a spiritual experience. During our Advent class, these last couple Sunday evenings, the assignment is this, and I give it to you to practice also. Get a candle, shut the lights off. 6 o'clock at night, it's dark. And then light that candle, reminding yourself of the light within, of not only the birth of Jesus, but the symbology of your own divine birth. It isn't an accident. It is yours for the taking. It is something that is inherently a part of you. But if we don't intentionally stop and have a quiet moment, how are we ever going to experience it? I think it's important that we do maybe two things this Christmas. Number one, give honor to our feelings, but also be aware that our ancestors are there with us. So, we're at Christmas dinner and we're passing around grandma's cranberry salad and everybody's thinking, oh, last year grandma was here. Why not say, okay, before we have dessert, let's everybody tell a funny story about grandma at Christmas. And suddenly you give people permission to feel the feelings, to have a moment of laughter, to have a moment of celebration, to recognize the spirits, the souls are around us. Isn't that what, the Day of the Dead and All Saints Day, All Souls Day, that's what that's all about, is honoring. If we believe in eternal life, then their life is still here, just not in physical form. The second thing I would recommend to you is do something new. Try a new dinner, a dessert. Try something from a foreign country. Try something that's out of the norm so that you begin to put a line in the sand that says, this is new. This is the new life that's coming forth. We have a sense of Christmas that we'll just, we just get over it. We'll just get through it. And then we say things like, I don't get the spiritual thing around Christmas. I've never felt anything. Oh, my friends, how that saddens my heart when it's just a few simple steps that the Bible told us 2,000 years ago. Let go of all those expectations. Plan for the trip and pare it down a little bit. And intentionally spend some time in the silence of the night within. Many years ago when my husband passed away, he passed away in July, and it was a Christmas that was just, I dreaded it. But I said to myself, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to set myself up. And so that morning I had planned, and it must have been a Sunday because I remember the process. I read the Bible accounts. They're only 3 or 4 pages. It doesn't take that long. And there's only 2 of them. And then I got dressed and I went to church. It was a new church. I'd never been there before, so I didn't really know anybody. So it allowed me, instead of into the fellowship of it all, just to be in the spirit of it all. Later on in the afternoon, I went to some friend's house, called my home and to my parents. And you know what? That happened many, many years ago. And I hold on my heart. It was probably the best Christmas ever. It was the best Christmas ever. There were no presents. There were no trees. There were no people. I'd been laid off of work. I couldn't go home to see my family. I was alone and feeling really bad. But in my mind today, I'll tell you, because I had set out at letting go of expectations, planned a little bit ahead for the journey, and had quiet time to myself, My life was completely changed. That Christmas, I had Christmas, the true and meaningful spirituality of Christmas coming in our life. So I leave you with those thoughts and ideas. Christmas is just 2 weeks from today. To think a little bit ahead about how Christmas will unfold in your life. Not just the Christmas of December 25th, but the Christmas of your heart that will live long after this Christmas is gone. Thank you for being with me today. God bless.